Good afternoon, I'm Niels. I look after the post business for Adobe in the UK. I'm here today to talk to you for the next half an hour or so about some of the fun new features we've introduced in Premiere Pro. First and foremost, we have developed a new entry point, let's say. The job of starting a project, creating a sequence, getting your media in, was perhaps a little bit more complex than it needed to be. We've introduced what we call the header bar. The top bar along the application window contains these three task-based roles up here in the top left-hand corner: import, edit, and export. If we click across to the import page, this is showing me all of the locations from which I can ingest and originate media down the left-hand side of the screen. So I'll go ahead and click import, and as you see, it has created a pre-built sequence with the 4 shots that I selected. And we're back in the edit window with which you're probably more familiar. Now, at the top, you'll notice we still have the workspaces layout as before, but it can now be hidden. You don't have to see it, you see. The final tab is export that we see up the top here. The export page in Premiere, and indeed some of the interface of Media Encoder as well, contained a lot of options. So we've stripped all of that back, and now this page is very much about destinations for your media. So on the left, you'll see these are the choices of either local file or platform that you're going to deliver your work to. And then as you enable those, you get more discoverable functions over here on the right as they become necessary. The next topic, which I was going to talk about a little bit, is HDR. It was a bleeding edge technology until, I guess, before the pandemic. Now it's really becoming established as a new basic norm. So you've got to make sure that your pipeline is able to manage that kind of footage correctly and not get yourself into a situation like you see here. Well, this image on the right, in this candy store, what's happened is the overbrights at the top have got crushed because this is being incorrectly interpreted and squeezed into a 100 nit standard HD color space. You can see here, this is my permitted ceiling. That's the maximum allowable level of brightness there at 100. You go into here and go to Modify, Interpret Footage. This is where we're telling Premiere how to interpret how it's going to work with the footage in your bin. But you can see down here under Color Management, Premiere is automatically using whatever flag it finds in the file. Rec 2100, Hybrid Log Gamma, High Dynamic Range. In this case, it's important that I'm going to override that to Rec 709, the standard space for HD, and we can see the clip as it's supposed to look within that output. Now, one of the more exciting developments of recent times is obviously the fact that we're now working closely with the Frame.io family, and they are a fully fledged part of the Adobe world now. So everybody who is running Premiere Pro 22 has the Frame.io capability available to them. Now, anything I upload from Premiere will be visible to any of my collaborators in that space. And so I'm going to upload my first video for approval. If I go into back to the web portal here, which I opened a second ago, I should be able to actually go ahead and share some of this with you guys. So back in Premiere, if I go back to that Frame.io panel we were looking at, I can double click to load the video, and what you'll notice is, yes, already I see I've got a comment from Casper, thank you very much, and there's another one over here from Eric. But the key thing here is that using this particular icon here for linking playheads, when I move my viewer backwards and forwards in the frame window, it is ganged to what's happening in the sequence down here. Moving back, I said I would talk to you a little bit about speech to text. So this is one of our prouder features of the last year or so. If I want to make some captions, for example, for this, I'll go to the new transcribe sequence section under the text window. So it's creating a flattened version of my audio track. And as you see, transcribing on device, it's about a 45-second sequence, and it's basically done in the time it took me to finish that sentence. If I now click on to create captions up here, this little icon, it will actually then create subtitles for me, and it will create an entire caption track for me at the top. And then those captions can be manipulated just like any other clip type in the timeline. Moving on in the same vein of graphics and captions, this is a basic workflow for creating text subtitles. But if you want your captions to have a bit more about them, and you want to do some animated graphics, for example, or whatever else, you can use what we call our MOGATs feature, or motion graphics templates. At their most basic, it's a Premiere title that has been turned into a template that can be repurposed. And at its most sophisticated, complicated. It could be an After Effects composition with several layers of animation and some graphics and visual effects and whatever else. So lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a Sensei feature called auto ducking. So if we take a listen, what we have here is some voiceover and music, but you can't hear the voice. The music's too loud. So I could go in and fix that by creating keyframes and ducking down the music everywhere there's a piece of dialogue, but it might take a while. So I have a quicker solution. So if instead I go back to here and I click on that and go to ducking, when we hit generate keyframes, it's going to auto mix my music track for me. There we go, there's the keyframes. I think that is about all I have for you today. Thank you very much.